Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and I'm back with another episode of this Out of the Park 22 playthrough with the San Francisco Giants. I have finished the off season, and we are just starting spring training, and I'm actually going to go through spring training this episode. There's a lot of new pieces I've added, and just some young guys I'm hoping to get a good look at. I thought it might be helpful maybe to just go through it and see where we are. I think I'm going to have some pretty tough decisions to make, maybe on that pitching side, and really on the offense. I picked up some players I think are going to make a difference. We'll see. I really paid a lot of attention after that last episode and during that last episode to, you know, looking at players who I think could do well in San Francisco. We took a look at the park factor. I can look at it real quick here. I guess if I go to the ballpark settings from here, I mean, you'll see you're really at a disadvantage in this ballpark. For home runs, power is going to be rough, and especially left-handed batters. So with that in mind, I'm trying to follow some of your suggestions. I think the consensus was basically looking for guys who are going to get on base, looking for guys who have more power from the right side of the plate, and I think that's what I was able to accomplish this offseason with, some maybe sleeper picks, no big free agent signings, but I'm thinking what I did pick up is going to make a difference. And we'll just take a look at that from the offseason center, which is something I like to keep an eye on during the offseason, during free agency and after, just to see how we stack up against the competition. And the real thing that I look at, it's really a high overview. It's pretty basic, but I do think it gives you a good picture of, number one, what teams are really active in the offseason, and number two, where you kind of stack up in terms of the negative or, I guess, net positive minus gain to your wins above replacement in terms of the players that you picked up. And so you always want to be in the positive, and you want to be as close to that top as you can. You'll see Yankees up here at the top. They had a plus 8.7 wins above replacement gain in the offseason. But you look at us, we're sixth down here at 2.1. So that's not a monumental difference, but I do think it's pretty good, and it's actually tops in our division. Only the Dodgers, they were the only other team in this division who were positive. You had Arizona took a small dive. Colorado went down quite a bit, and then I guess there's San Diego. They lost quite a bit of value there in the offseason. But if you look at it individually, I'll just show you what we picked up and lost. First off, we did lose Merrifield, decided not to re-sign him. He went back to Kansas City. But he had a good season last year that I don't know he's going to duplicate too many seasons. This one's controversial, Logan Webb. I traded him away after being kind of convinced that he was a solid number 3 starter. I decided to go with some younger guys. I never liked his attitude. It was selfish. It was disruptive. I think if not disruptive, at least it probably had a negative impact on team chemistry. And then we did lose Barrios. You look at his wins above replacement, it's just a .3. He kind of took a dive there at the end of the season. Did get 10 wins for us, but I was looking at his fielding independent pitching. It was pretty high, way higher than his ERA. So I think he benefited from that park. I know there were some suggestions of maybe re-signing him at $12 million. I thought that was probably a little bit too much. I think that was what he was wanting when I was in negotiations with him. So I took a flyer on him. He went to St. Louis. And then if you look in terms of the players we gained, this is where I think it gets interesting. Jurickson Profar was I would say our biggest free agent signing, and there were some reasons for that. I'll take a look at it in depth here in a minute. But then we got Marcus Semien in trade, who I think is another sleeper, good on base guy. I'll take a little bit of closer look at him as well. And then we picked up Kiki Hernandez. I think one of my viewers even mentioned it. This guy's a great utility player, but wait till I show you his numbers from against left-handed pitching, and I think you'll see why I picked him up. He's going to be, I think, very valuable. And then we got Will Smith, who has played here before and had some success. He was with San Francisco back in 2019, was the closer for him in 2019. In that 3-year run, 2.5-year run he had with San Francisco, he's really good. And he's still got some really good value against left-handed batters. So I'm thinking he's going to help out in the bullpen. If we just get, I really still think that if we just get some even average arms out there, we'll be decent if we can get the offense going. But taking a look at the pitching staff first, and I'll show you what I'm thinking on this. So I'll look at the ratings, and this is set up now with the way I'm going to look in spring training. I always like to go with a 6-man rotation. I use a strict order so that they're all getting starts. And then we've got some middle relief guys. We've got some guys who are probably not going to make it in terms of being on that final roster. But we're bringing back Presley and Trinan, who were 2 big free agent signings last year. I really think they're going to have better seasons. He started out as our closer, and he may go back there. I don't know, because Elledge is rated as one of the best closers in the league from OSA. He wants to be in the starting rotation, but he can't really because of that stamina. He was decent for us as a closer, so I'm going to try to ride it out with him. And Blake Trinan, I just hope that he rebounds from a miserable season. That was he's got one more year with $6.7 million. I think I mentioned when I was talking about him last episode, this is one of the worst performances I've seen from a bullpen pitcher. It was just consistently bad, and his numbers don't justify that. One of the things that was interesting about him in the offseason, I got several trade offers for him, so the AI really values this guy. I'm hoping that he comes back. So we picked up Smith. We also picked up Whistler, who I let go in free agency last year. I got him on trade, and I think I traded just St. Louis. I guess they picked up some people. They were wanting to save some budget room, I'm guessing. I picked him up for like a minor league pitcher, a lefty who's probably not going to make the team this year. I really like what he did in San Francisco. Look at those numbers, 273, 272 ERA. He was really consistent, well above average, I think, in Ks per 9 innings. Good whip. I just hope that he comes close to duplicating that. He'll be a really good piece for us if he does. I'm putting him in middle relief because I think that's where I had him when he was with us. My scout thinks he's a middle reliever as well. But now when you go to the pitching staff, that starting rotation, it does start to look really scary. You've got Clevenger, who is coming off a good season, 4 wins above replacement. He even got some votes for Cy Young. I don't know if he's going to duplicate what he did last year, but I think in this park, again, I think if he just does what he did last year, it's definitely going to be a plus for us. I think if we get some better offense, he'll have better numbers. And then we're bringing back Abram, who was a rookie last year. I love the fact that this guy has 5 well above average pitches, pretty high on the velocities, extreme ground ball, which may not play too much of a factor in San Francisco, but I think he's got some upside. He looked good at times in a limited call-ups last year. So Abram, Clevenger, and Sheffield, who really had a good year last year. I like this guy. He doesn't give up a lot of home runs. He is a lefty option. I think OSA likes him a little bit better, but I've gotten some really good luck from him last couple seasons. I think those guys are kind of set, but once you get past them, it gets iffy. And I went with, so I traded Logan Webb for Simeon, and the AI would have accepted Schmidt as well. And I deliberated a lot. I think Schmidt could actually be a good starter. Just a 2.5-star pitcher right now, but he's got decent stamina. He's got 4 above average pitches. I think his numbers really look better, or his ratings anyway, look better than Webb, Logan Webb, who got rid of. I think it was Logan Webb. I'm losing my mind here, but another thing about him, you can't really see. I don't say the splits year to year just to save on database size, but as a starter, he looked really good. He got several starts, 14 starts last year. I think he could develop and do well, especially in San Francisco. And then after him, Santos and Frisbee will probably round out the rotation. Frisbee really picked up some ratings last year in the minors. His numbers may not look that great, but I'm thinking, he's got a good slider, above average assortment of pitches there. He may have a shot if he has a good spring. And then Santos, same way. I've used him before as a starter in 2022, and he looked, pretty decent. Didn't have a great year in the minors last year, but we'll see. Unfortunately, there wasn't a whole lot available free agency for pitchers, unless I guess you just really wanted to do what I did 2 years ago, which was gamble on some big names and really got it was a bust in just about every case. But we'll see what happens. I was wanting to put more money into offense, so that's what I did, and we'll see if that pans out. But on the lineup side, this is where, like I say, I think I got some really good value. It may not seem like it, but if we just run down starting from catcher, I think Joey Bart, great personality, good defensive catcher. I think he's going to stay there. He's not going to give you great offensive numbers, although really 2022 was pretty good. Depends on what kind of run he gets on. And then Luciano, I keep talking about this guy, 4-star potential, great power, right-handed bat. He's got good eye and discipline, so I think he might, eventually start drawing some walks. But he's not going to be a high walk guy. But if he gets around 50 for a full season, I'll be happy with his other numbers. He's definitely picked up his defensive play at first base. I think he's going to be a strong defender there. And then Marcus Simeon I picked up. This guy's a great defender. He has decent speed, decent power. His eye discipline is high. And then especially against lefties or righties. I mean, he's got a good chance to get on base. One of the things that, unfortunately, like I said, I can't really do the deep dive now into the splits from last season, but I took a look. I mean, I really went pretty close into these free agents. I looked at what he did against San Francisco. He was one of the few players who played us. It was a small sample size, but his numbers looked really good in San Francisco. His numbers last year at St. Louis, after a pretty poor season in 2022, and this guy in 2019, several years ago now, I know, but this guy was an MVP candidate. So I think if I get the kind of production he gave St. Louis last year, I'll be really happy. I think it'll be an improvement over Merrifield. So I really like that pickup. And then Hernandez is the deal. Where do you put him? So I know Simeon is going to be starting at second. I really want to get this guy as much playtime as I can. So right now he's going to start in left against left-handed pitching, and this is why. And this guy, man, he's so valuable as a utility infielder. He's got a good eye and discipline, but look at his ratings against left-handed pitchers. 70 gap power, 60 power, 60 eye, avoiding Ks. He's coming off limited play time just because of the kind of player he is. But, man, his last 3 seasons in this playthrough I think have been really good. Last year, I thought, well, was he injured much last year? And that was going to throw me a curveball, but he was injured in the offseason. So he should have been available for a full season last year. He just didn't get the time in Minnesota. But I think giving this guy more play time is going to be really good. And it depends on how he plays and how some of these other guys look. He might get even more play time. I think you could put him in right field and wouldn't lose too much there. Simeon could play shortstop. If Simmons just becomes too much of a liability offensively, then I can move Simeon to short, put Hernandez full-time there at second. So I got some options there with having Hernandez that I really like. Devers, I'm going to stick with another year. We'll see how he's doing probably at the trading deadline, just because this guy against right-handed pitchers, and he's going to put up good numbers overall. He's just going to struggle in San Francisco, and I'm hoping that maybe with a better offense around him, he'll look better. And then when we get to the outfield, Hunter Bishop is getting a look, but I'm not going to invest too much into him if he's not performing to a level like he's shown in the minors. The guy really, he doesn't have a lot of contact, but he's got good eye power, gap power. If you look at his minors numbers, I mean, it equates to maybe 50 walks a year. I mean, I could deal with that, those high power numbers. He's got good speed. He's a good defender for the most part. He's never looked good in the majors. So, I got Blankenhorn there again, who could play left field. He may have to wind up taking over the starting role and then splitting time with Hernandez if Bishop doesn't pan out. But I'm giving Bishop the starts against right-hand pitchers in spring training just to see if he can develop a little bit more. Dubon's another guy who's a really valuable utility player, although he wants to be in the starting lineup. I don't think I'm probably going to have much space for him, although he is going to get some time, I think, against left-handed pitching, just because Miyazaki is so upside down on his ratings when you look at his ratings against left-handed batters. So he's going to be in a platoon situation. I'm not going to start him against lefties. But then finally, this Jurickson Profar was the biggest free agent signing. I think Simeon has a bigger contract, but this guy fits the bill, in my opinion, of what we were looking for. I just hope he stays healthy. He's got good contact and power against both sides of the plate. He's got good eye and discipline. He's got good defense. He can even play second, but he can play the corner outfield, either spot there in case, the other option I have in right pans out and I have to move him to left. I got some good options with him. He looked great last year for San Diego. 76 walks, just 87 strikeouts, 293 average, ops plus of 141. But this guy playing in San Diego, I did have a really good sample size as to how he played against San Francisco, and he tore it up when he played on the road against us. I mean, his batting average was over 400. I forget what his OPS was. It was way high, like maybe 1.2 or something, in a lot of games too. It wasn't, like I say, it wasn't really a small sample size. He was really productive, and I'm hoping that means something and that he can really make an impact. In terms of where I'm going to be batting him, I'm batting him second against righties, fifth against lefties. That could change, depends on how some of these other guys do as the season goes on. But then Ramos is, he may be this odd man out. Last year was his first full season. He's a good defender. He's got good speed. He's also got good potential power. But He's really lost some ratings from OSA, although they haven't really scouted him much lately. He was, at times, I thought, looking at him in the minors, I thought he might be one of the better prospects. I did get some trade offers from him. He does hit well, should hit well against left-handed batters, but I'm not thinking he's ready. And again, being able to pick up caliber player like Profar, and then having Blankenhorn there and Hernandez available, and Dubon, the big outfield questions, I think, because Matos and Fernandez, Canario, these guys are not ready. They're not really going to, I don't think, make the roster when opening day hits. But if Hunter Bishop doesn't perform and Ramos doesn't perform, I mean, we're probably looking at those guys being sent down and using Hernandez and these other guys as overall utility players. But that's the plan. I still think we're on to something. It's just we're not gonna go out and put a lot of money into free agents like I did a few years ago. So I'm gonna try to build it slowly. But I think this year, seeing how the offense develops with those pickups, then next offseason, maybe into the trading deadline if we're competitive, that's when I'm going to start looking at some pitching. And one thing I didn't mention about pitching, I also have Dustin May coming back in 5 weeks. So I figure around May, he should hopefully be good to go. I'm hoping he's been out for a long time, and sometimes the ratings don't adjust until after they come off that IL. So, his ratings may take a dive. If they don't, he has pitched really well in limited time here, 26 starts since we picked him up. So he's going to be in the rotation if his ratings stay the same. But let's go ahead and get it started. I'm going to go through week at a time here, and we'll see what kind of numbers we can put up, see what kind of injuries we have. Santos already injured for a week, so he may not miss his start. I think I've got somebody set up there for as an emergency starter if he does. Take a look at the news. We're probably going to see still some free agent signings here. Brandon Workman went to Atlanta, and this is kind of what's out there. I mean, this guy got $3.8 million, and he's a 2.5-star pitcher, 35 years old. OSA thinks he's a little bit better. I don't know. I don't really want to put too much money into somebody who's might not really add much to the team. So let's go another week out. I mean, we're playing around 500. That doesn't really mean a whole lot right now. So Anthony Rizzo injured at Chicago, and he's putting up some decent numbers there still for Chicago. Over 300 home runs for his career. I wonder if they signed him. Yeah, they signed him to a longer contract, looks like. Albies is out. He was the MVP last year. He's going to be out a couple weeks. And then Pollock may have been another guy who, he didn't really fit what we were looking for. He may have been rated pretty highly against left-handed pitchers, but I decided to go with Hernandez there. So let's take one more week before we take a look at our numbers. So we're at 4-6 through 10 games. I mean, we're kind of struggling a little bit. We've got Will Wilson out. Now, he's a guy I really wanted to take a look at because he kind of fits the bill of what we're looking for. A utility guy who needs to probably get more time at third and short before he's useful there, but he's got good eye and discipline. He's middle of the road on speed, but his ratings against left-handed batters is pretty good too, and OSA thinks he's pretty good from both sides of the plate. I'll take a quick look at how he was doing in the spring in terms of his batting. And to do that, I'll have to just go to the split here and choose spring training. He was hitting 318. Not doing too bad. So, with him out now, it may give me some time to look at somebody else. Doesn't really change much against righties. I don't know who, maybe Tyler Fitzgerald as a backup there. Yeah, that's the problem there. I'm just going to have to play Fitzgerald, who is not, he's hitting 214. I don't know what he's going to give us, in terms of is he going to make the final roster? But I'll have him backing up there. And I'd probably put him in the wrong place. So Luciano, I want Logan Wyatt to get some time there. All right, so take a look at the news. Juan Soto, just a day-to-day injury, looks like. And Addison Reed, this is another guy. I mean, $6.6 million for a guy whose numbers from my scout just look terrible. I think that would be a real big gamble. So let's play till next week. So we're 6-9. Let's take a look at the numbers. I think we played 28 games in the spring. So, hey, Clevenger's now 3.5-star pitcher. So looking at the pitching stats for the spring, Frisbee has not looked good. 8.44 ERA. Neither is Abram. Just 2 starts, though. Frisbee, Clevenger's look really good. Santos has looked good. Schmidt, still early. Sheffield, he's looked good. Jelly, man, he's coming off a pretty decent year, but man, he's stinking it up in spring. Presley's looking good. Trinan looking good. Not a lot of play time though for those guys yet. On the lineup side, Joey Bart, no home runs, but his average is up pretty good. Luciano really struggling, although he's now a 3-star player for my scout, and OSA. So he has 7 walks for what it's worth, hitting 125, but quite a bit of walks there. Logan Wyatt, this guy, it surprises me. He fits kind of what we're looking for. He's a left-handed bat, but he looks decent against left-handed pitchers. OSA thinks he looks even better. I mean, he could start, I think, for most teams at first. Simeon's looking good. Hernandez looking pretty good, hitting over 300. Devers struggling, but he has 3 home runs. Hunter Bishop hitting 400, 4 home runs, 7 RBIs, 8 runs. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, if he does that, which I think he may have done that last spring, it's kind of hard to send him down. And then Miyazaki looking good, Profar looking good. So I like what I'm seeing offensively. Let's see if it carries over. We're still losing though. 8-11, 8-12, 8-3. So it looks like we're probably going to finish below 500 in the minors or in spring. Any other signings? Hey, James Sherfy, our old guy, signs with Minnesota, $8.7 million. That seems really off. I know he's rated higher for OSA, but man, $8.7 million? That's crazy. He didn't even pitch last year. I think he may have pitched. I kept him in the minors, and he looked terrible. Ah, man, that doesn't seem all that realistic. That's really weird. All right, so we're 9-13. Let's hope we finish strong here. I would say that's strong. We won 5 of 6, if I'm looking at that right. So we finished right at 500 in the spring. We won 5 of 6 to close it out. So that's good. In terms of leaders, Abrams, most of these leaderboards don't really mean much in the spring. But I'm going to take a look at a few things here because I noticed we're going to have, Matt Barnes is out. Did he not just sign? Or no, I was thinking somebody else. Kenta Maeda still out there. He signs for $16.6 million. So I want to take a look at wow, Bregman, 7 years, $289 million. Is that right? $42 million after this year. His ratings are incredible. I'll give him that. He was MVP in 2021 in this playthrough. He's coming off a really good season. So he's going to be, I would say, the highest paid player after this year. Let's take a look at the player development update. So right away, seeing some negatives, also seeing some positives. Blake Trinan, his stuff went down, but I'm not really looking at him as a stuff type pitcher. So not a big drop. His current potential, his movement, he lost some speed. Clark Schmidt now is 3-star pitcher. So, I feel like I didn't really lose anything trading Webb away, keeping him. Presley dropped some. He signed through this year with a player option. I don't know. He might ditch us if we don't have a good season. Ben Abram, now 3-star pitcher, so he looks good. I think he's ready to go. That stamina, I think, may have gone up. Did it? Yeah, stamina. Stuff went up. Luciano, his numbers all went up. Even avoiding Ks, I think, went up. So he's now a 4.5-star potential player. 4-star from OSA. I think, even he's 22. I just think I'm going to play him and hope he develops. Tyler Fitzgerald picks up some ratings. That might help us out. He was with us a lot last year as a bench player. And then Vince Fernandez. This guy, he may eventually turn into a trade option. I don't like that personality. He's going to really be trouble. And, he's got good power and eye, but that's about all he brings. Bishop, he lost some ratings. So even though last I checked he was having that great spring, numbers-wise, both him and Dubon lost some ratings. So let's just go ahead and take a look at it. Let's see on the pitching side first off. Will Smith improved as well. He's now 3.5 stars. So, you look at Peters. Well, let me look at the stats because that'll probably tell me a little bit more. Looking at spring training here. So from the starting rotation, Clevenger was awesome. Frisbee got it together towards the end. Abram looked, he looked pretty serviceable. Santos looked good. Schmidt, again, serviceable. Sheffield looked great. So I'm going to have that decision to make between Frisbee or Santos. And gosh. I mean, Santos has the better numbers for sure. So, I may take it week by week, but Santos may have won out on that 5th spot. And then the Val had a good spring, but his control scares me. He had a decent look in mostly September, but I think we called him up last year and he looked good. OSA thinks he's got a little bit better upside, but not by much. Jelly really struggled. Peters, he struggled, but I think he's probably going to stay with us. And Presley, Schmidt looked pretty decent. I don't think, though, he's ready. He's coming all the way from Eugene. I'm probably comfortable putting him back to Sacramento, to start the season. Will Smith looked great. Trinan looked great. Whistler is going to be there regardless. So, I go with 13 pitchers. We got some good numbers out of these guys for the most part. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. So I got to cut down. I got to cut two of these guys out. Now Frisbee, he wants to be in that starting rotation too, but he might be a better piece to put in as a long reliever, getting some start time than Jelly. And then DeVal, I just don't trust. Even though his movement and stuff is really high, I'm so scared of the walks. I mean, he looks like an average reliever. I think that's about where he's at. So I think I'm just gonna demote him already, and then that means I'm gonna have one more guy to move on from on the pitching side, if I'm counting that right. One, yeah, and it's probably gonna be either Jelly or Frisbee. I mean, if you look at the ratings, I should probably keep Frisbee up there. If you look at what they did in the spring, I should definitely keep Frisbee up there. And if I look at the scouting, he's an average reliever. Whereas Frisbee, if I even put him over to a reliever, my scout, yeah, I mean, he thinks he's ready to go in the rotation. So I want to keep him up there in case Santos or even Abram here, or if any of these guys kind of flame out. I want to keep him up there, and I'm just going to send Jelly down. I know he had a good year last year, all things considered. Oh, and I didn't even mention Tristan Beck. He looked pretty good, and he's not really. Yeah, that was the wrong move. Tristan Beck needs to go down. So that makes it even easier. I think I would rather have Jelly up there. So that should get the pitching settled. Now, if we look at the batting, ratings-wise, we got some guys here. 3.5 star, 4.5 star. Patrick Bailey. He is really ready to start. And not much of a... not much difference between his ratings and Bart's, except maybe defensively. I think Bart's just a little bit better overall catcher. But let's take a look at the stats. So I can probably say right away Trump is going to go down. I'm going to give Bailey the backup start or backup role there at catcher. And then Luciano, man, he struggled. But I have to believe that he's going to get better than that. Hernandez looked good. I'm excited to see what he can do. Simeon, 6 home runs, 548 slugging, 872 OPS. Both those guys look good. Devers, however, he's still struggling. His average is down. Doesn't walk a lot. Simmons, I got to hope that his defense is going to help us out, because he's also got a player option this year. It might be the wise thing might be to move Simeon, like I was saying, over to short, and it's just gonna I'm gonna play it by ear through that first month or so. Bishop looked phenomenal. I mean, his numbers were the best of anybody offensively, except maybe Bart. Well, no, he was better than Bart. So he's going to be up here, and I'll give him the starts against righties, and through this first month or so of the season. Profar, after a pretty decent start, he struggled towards the end. His ratings still where they need to be, I think. Dubon, he looks good. I think he's going to be valuable still. So if I'm looking at it right away, I'm going to send Fernandez down. He will probably be in the mix somewhere along the line. Matos, I was just getting a look at. He wasn't going to make it. anyway. Canario, same deal. He's not ready to play in the majors. So that leaves me kind of going with 5 outfielders, throwing Hernandez in that mix. I mean, I may really have to move Ramos down. That's tough because, I'm not really getting... Unless Bishop performs at that level, I mean, these guys are all kind of, to me, about the same value. Bishop, Blankenhorn, Dubon, Ramos, they just seem to be about equal in value. I don't know how you make the decision there, but I'm going to deliberate that offline. So I know we got some good things here. I think Wyatt is another one I could either offer up in trade or send him down to AAA to start the season in case, again, Luciano flames out, doesn't work out. But that leaves us 28. We got to cut 2 down, and they got to be from the offense. So more than likely, it's going to be Tyler Fitzgerald, even though his numbers look good and he picked up some ratings. He's not strong defensively. And, you got Hernandez. I can put Hernandez in just about any position out there against righties as a backup. And so now that leaves me, do I want to keep Wyatt? Do I want to keep Ramos? So that's the decision. Those are decisions I'm going to have to make. But I'll do that offline, and then we'll get ready for opening day. I still think we're going to be better. I just don't know if we're going to have a winning record. I mean, that might be a stretch. Make the playoffs will definitely be a stretch, but I do think our offense is going to be better this year, and really pitching might even be better. Looking at how some of those ratings improved. But that's going to do it for this episode. As always, I appreciate the support and the comments and the likes, and I'll see you next episode when we get this next season started. Thanks for watching.